Have you ever heard of trauma bonds or being addicted to love addiction? If you have ever felt very severe abandonment wounds activated in a relationship, you need to listen to this. This is a very candid, open conversation and very powerful. I felt really tender witnessing this. I don't think that a lot of people share the journey itself, the journey that is filled with pain and behaviors that make us cringe when we look back. This is what this is like. It's real and it's true and it's extremely powerful. Okay.
Hi.
Hi. I'm
Hey
so
there.
you're here. Hey, you
Happy to be
never,
here.
you've never been on my podcast. Oh my
No.
goodness. This is very exciting. Okay, I've been on your podcast 3 times.
3 times.
Yeah. Wow. It's time for you to catch up.
Yeah, no
So,
kidding.
so we're just gonna, okay.
Where do you
I'll
want
ask
to
you the
start?
question of what is a trauma bond, and then we'll dial it backwards maybe. And how do you see it? Like, I don't want you to like feel pressure to give some like official fucking.
No, I know. I'm just thinking about where I want to go
Yeah.
um with it. So, and I also what I'll just say too is that some people get a little touchy with this um because I think that there's this, and I said this in my episode, like, there is like this one sort of idea of what a trauma bond is and what a lot of people have in their mind. Um, and that usually includes like a very abusive relationship or a relationship with a narcissist. Um, and there's various definitions of like how it would be like defined, but I think in essence, the way that I would define it is when there is some sort of intermittent like reinforcement going on where there's some sort of a push pull like dynamic going on, and there's different ways that that can manifest. But I think what was really important, the reason that I never really saw any of the relationships that I was in as necessarily being a trauma bond is like I don't think I would have called any of them like overtly abusive. Um, for me, it was being attracted to uh people who typically like were avoidant, right? And it's just like as soon as my fear of abandonment got triggered, like I was fucked. I was fucked, and that's how quickly and easily a trauma bond can form. So like let's say you start talking to somebody and you have abandonment wounds. I won't even say unresolved, right? Because I think that
Do they ever
they're
get
always gonna be
resolved?
there. Yeah. They can definitely get better, right? But let's say, you're talking to somebody and the first time that you question like their interest in you, or just that first time that your fear of abandonment gets triggered, for me it would just take somebody not responding to a text for however long. And so you go into a trauma response, right? Like you start you go into a trauma response. Your rational part of your brain shuts down, you're in this emotional state, and it becomes like this do or die feeling, right? Of like when you're going to hear from them. And so you go into this stress state, and then as soon as you hear from them, like the relief that you feel, and that's it. Like that's the first cycle, right? Like
God,
that's the first
God.
cycle of it.
Mm.
And what I'll say now is that when I've experienced that now with healing under my belt, and when it has been in healthier relationships, when I've subsequently experienced it, I then had that experience of like, all right, I heard from this person. It'll still like flare up a little bit. But I'm just thinking about an experience that I had like a little over a year ago where I remember the very first time that it happened. Oof, it was so uncomfortable. And then I ended up hearing from him, and he was just busy with his kids. And I was using all the tools too. I was trying to connect with like the part of me, like the little girl who felt like she was being abandoned. But I will say that each time it happened after that, I didn't get triggered in the way that I once did. But that's after doing a lot of work on myself. But like when you're in it and you haven't done the work, like each time it happens, it's like you get more and more attached. And it feels worse and worse each time. And the thing about it too is that every single time that it happens, it makes you feel like you have deeper feelings for the person. It's not real. You're just deepening your attachment. It's like the fear of abandonment can make somebody like 10 million times more attractive.
Oh my God,
I was just thinking about that.
such a good point. Yeah.
But it really is, I mean, a part of it, and what most people talk about is getting stuck in this loop of this, this intermittent reinforcement, whether it's, I mean, typically it is like abandonment, but a lot of times it could be, like fighting, right? And so it's the cycle of like stress and relief, and getting hooked into that. But I do think that every single time there's an element of unresolved. There's a childhood trauma element of it. I don't really know if I think that I don't really know if somebody would find themselves in a trauma bond and having had a completely healthy and normal childhood.
I've heard many therapists say that it's possible, but I don't know. I just this is not based on research or anything. I would question that. That it doesn't make sense to me.
I just don't think that you would find yourself. I just don't think that, because I think it's all about like the sense of self that you've built. And I think that if you grew up, well, I guess we should like maybe clarify. I just think that somebody with a secure attachment is never going to find themselves. I don't think that they would find themselves in a situation like that.
Yeah, because it's like you would experience something shitty from someone and you would say to yourself, that was shitty. I'm done.
Not doing that. I'm not doing that.
I'm not doing that again. But if you have this abandonment trauma, I'm curious, like, what you think about this. Do you think that it's like you're trying to kind of resolve that in that present moment relationship? Like you're taking your past abandonment trauma and trying to unconsciously, of course, it's not a conscious attempt, to resolve it.
Yeah, I think that there's that. And I also just think that these experiences, like this trauma, is unresolved and living in our body. And so it just it's getting triggered, and we get activated, and we kind of like lose the option of choice. Like we don't really have a choice in the matter.
So can you, I mean, I have to link the episode that you did on this. It was so brilliant. Can you walk us through the healing that has occurred for you to get to a point where you said a year ago, like it wasn't that triggering? And also, do you think part of it is attracting people who respond differently as well? When they're unavailable for a moment, they would understand the things coming up for you and like kind of not hook you into that cycle.
Well, I think that that's one thing that's really important to touch upon, is that for me, going forward in any relationship that I'm in, romantic, this is something that I'm going to have to share with them. Like, this is a thing for me. Right? Like, it's gotten a lot better, but I think it's totally unrealistic to think that I'm ever going to enter a romantic relationship and not have my fear of abandonment get triggered at some point. Like, it's totally unrealistic to think that that won't ever happen. But I'm just trying to, like, it's just like backtracking and thinking about all of the healing that has gone into this, and then what I went through. Because maybe we should like talk about that
The
some.
journey, the process. Before, yeah, I definitely think we should. Before you do, like what you just said, I think it's such a good point because so many people think that they need to remove their needs if they are based on trauma, like, oh, but I just need to work through these triggers. And it's like so many of our needs are based on trauma. That's like normal or on our life experience that's been like depleted and now we need this more and it's like more intense, but it is a need. And it's like, yeah, I think it's so important what you just said, like to communicate this is a thing that happens for me and this is what I need in those situations. So let's
Well, I want to touch on that though too, because I think that's really important because reassurance is a thing. Like those of us with like complex trauma, like it's really important that we give each other reassurance. There is a point though where I think that like we can take it too far, and I'm not really quite sure how to even like name that. Um, I do think, and I think in a relationship, like there is a point, like there is a healthy way and of asking for it. I do think that it can be taken too far, and I'm not really sure how to put that into words exactly. Um, I think that there are ways like where it would be too much.
like if somebody is responsible for your entire sense of safety, like you create codependence, right?
Mhm.
But I think that codependence is usually created when you're not able to speak your needs or you're speaking your needs from a child part. Like rescue me. When you're this is what I'm always checking in with. Like, am I speaking from my wise-centered self or am I speaking from a child part? And like the child parts, like I want to tend to, and then I want to come to the person and say, okay, I tended to this, and like here's like how you can support me. And if there's no clear cut answer, I think it's such a good question, but both people need to be doing their work, and then both people need to be saying like, I can give you this. This is all I can give you without resentment, without like losing myself. Like this is what's really okay for me to give you.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And I'm trying to think of how to put this into words of like an experience I had with somebody else. Um, where like they came to me one time, like they were wondering if I was mad at them. And I can't remember specifically if it was like I had replied to them short in a text message or if it was like a length of time that I took to get back to them or something. But like we had a talk and explain to them like, no, like I'm not mad. And honestly, for me, it was like something like I personally wouldn't have like taken that as like a sign that I was mad at them, but they did. And so we had this, but then it just like, it kept happening like over and so it's like we can offer that reassurance once, but then it's kind of on us. Like you can't just you can't, the next time it happens, you need to have either like to be able to check in with yourself or maybe you reach out to another person and say like this, like you can't just keep going back to the person and saying, are you mad at me? Are you mad at me? The same thing over and over again. Like that is like looking for somebody to meet your emotional needs. Like when that's the thing with reassurance is like, are we seeking reassurance in a healthy way or are we looking for somebody to provide us reassurance that we should really be providing to ourselves?
Yeah, that's such a good question. And I also think that sometimes people like cannot meet each other. You know what I mean? Like, you're not bad. You're not. It's just like I have some needs that this person cannot meet me. You know, and then it's like, okay. I mean, I've had that recently, and it's like, okay, you can't meet me. I can't meet you. We go our separate ways. If you try to meet each other, and also you try to think, like you said, can I also talk to someone else? Like, can I take these needs and go elsewhere? Even whatever needs they are, reassurance, whatever it is, like, can I get it somewhere else? Like, that's something I did in my marriage. Like, can't the thing that I was missing is like connection, which is very fucking basic. I know.
Yeah.
I know.
You're like, the thing that I was missing was like an actual relationship.
I know. But it's just the level of depth and connection being seen that I wanted was not what I was being given. So my first thing was like, I'm going to get it from other places. My friendships. I feel very seen and loved in my friendships. Okay. Not enough. No, I still need this. So then my next idea was, can we have an open relationship? To which my ex was like, absolutely not. And I was also like, and I don't.
Yeah, would you really have been okay with that?
No.
Yeah.
It was an idea. It was like, I love you. I want to be together. Let's try this, Let me try to get this need met from like other men somehow. I don't know. And so, yeah, it didn't work. But the idea is like attempting to think like, okay, can I get this met like other ways? Because one person cannot meet everything for us. That's codependence. That's right there,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tricky. Okay.
Yeah. So, I mean, the one thing that I wanted to backtrack to when we were talking about with trauma bonds and stuff like that, I think that what I really boiled it down to in my episode was talking about like these primary trauma bonds that we have with our parents. And I think what this really all boils down to is that what all of us experienced in the relationship with our parents, and it looks in different ways, is like there was some aspect of it where like we had to accept the unacceptable, like in some way. Like there was some aspect of it where the person that was responsible for providing us with love and taking care of us was also like harming us, or we were afraid of them in some way. And so it just like teaches you to tolerate the intolerable, accept the unacceptable, um, to have love always require like some sort of sacrifice or pain.
Yes.
Yeah.
I had that like, oh, it was like a mind-blowing moment where I was like, oh my God. So the feeling that I had for many men in my life, that like roller coaster feeling, like you said, the ups and downs, that's exactly how I felt with my parents. That's a definition of love, isn't it? Like with our parents, the experience with them defines love for us. This is what love looks like. And then you're like, okay, well, I want the same thing. Like, I mean, I just know this, so I'm going to replicate it. And it's like earning love, I think, part of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, earning love. Yeah, like for me with my mom, it was with her being an alcoholic. It was like love always entails that like somebody could abandon you at like any moment in time without any sort of like warning. So somebody's not going to be like consistently available to you. And with my dad, it was like I have to be providing something, like I have to be offering something. It was like the only time that we were connected was when I was essentially functioning as like his therapist or his like emotional confidant, his friend. And that required, my mom being intoxicated. So I think a big thing for me was just like of who I am just inherently is never enough. Like I've always felt like I've had to like offer something like more, like I have to be giving, I have to be bringing something to the table that's beyond just like me as a person.
Yeah. Yeah. And then your dad wasn't getting his emotional needs met in his marriage. So he was almost like doing it through you.
Mm-hmm.
That's very, very painful for a child, for an adult too. After
Mm-hmm.
having.
Mm-hmm.
So, do you feel like all of your relationships so far basically replicated that feeling in your body of like, I'm going to earn this, I'm going to work for this, I'm going to prove?
No, it was more so, I would say it was more so like trying to save or fix somebody. Um,
I don't know
uh,
anything about that. What?
yeah, yeah, um, yeah, it
Like with
was
your
like,
mom. Well,
yeah,
maybe with both of them, actually.
yeah, well, and it was often both, um, alcoholics or just people that were like completely emotionally unavailable.
Yeah. So, you just,
Relationships were so, I mean, they were such painful experiences for me. Like it was like abusive, not the relationships, but like what it did to me. Um, and it was just and again, like I shared before, as soon as that first fear of abandonment like it got triggered, I mean, I was miserable. Um, I'm somebody, and I don't know if it's just that my wound, like the severity of my wounds, or if it was the people that I picked. But it would just be pure hell. Like I would just be in pure hell as soon as that as soon as that trauma as soon as that trauma bond got ticked off. Um I was non-functional. I couldn't work. Um I was just so consumed. And there would be good moments. But whenever if I didn't hear from them or just if I sensed that they were withdrawing, I mean, I just lived in just such a chronic state of hypervigilance, overreading everything. I couldn't be present with my friends. I mean, I was just physically, it would be like, it would be like withdrawing. It really was like an addiction.
yeah, I was just gonna say addiction. Yeah. And I relate a lot to that. Yeah.
And the shame and not wanting to, and it was like walking away was like never an option.
So, okay. So I want to ask you about that because, man, just the dissonance that we have, right? Like our bodies feel something terrible, awful, right? Like, get me the fuck out of here. Like, this sucks. Our brain is looping. I'm assuming, I'm just talking about me, like looping, like, because I understand what you're saying with the hell. It literally feels like hell when someone withdraws. Um, and your brain, I mean, especially in that relationship that you were describing in your episode, where like you've done a lot of work and you knew, did you know, like when you were in it, did you know, like, what the fuck am I doing? But I can't. Or like in my case, it was more like a hope, like a constant, like hope, like, let's see what happens. Let's see what happens. Let's see what happens.
So that experience was like completely different for me. Um, and I should talk about like what led up to that. So it's like, I have all these horrible relationship experiences and then I start healing, right? Um, and I dip my toe in the dating pond here and there. Like nobody really lasted more than a few months. And so then I meet somebody that I like really, really, really like. And and I will say that there was an experience though that I had maybe like a year before that where it was like the first person that I had feelings for, like went on more than a few dates with. And there were a few times like when my abandonment kicked in. And that was like the first time ever that like I had experienced that in healing. Ooh, and to actually be with myself and to sit with it as much as I could. Because in the past, I mean, I didn't really understand what it was that I was experiencing, but I just would be needy. I would, try to call friends. Like I was like an emotional vampire. But then to have those experiences where like I would just be in it, and just to imagine like that little girl who just felt like she was gonna die if she couldn't sleep in her mom's bed at night, or like the little girl who just like felt like she was gonna die if she couldn't go home from the sleepover. Um, and to be with her and then to watch it pass, like that was really, it was like a really powerful experience for me. So, so yeah, I meet this person that I really, really, really like. And I just felt so seen by him in a way that I had never felt seen before. But then he was like, going through a divorce. And I just knew that this was not going to like it, this was not the time for it. Like this, he wasn't as emotionally available and like ready for a relationship in the way in which I was. So like I decided to cut it off with him. And that was like such a huge deal for me. Cause as I said, like in my episode, like I would like hold on to like moldy crumbs and like this was me walking away from quality crumbs. But it brought some stuff up for me. Like I could tell that there was still some more in me that needed to be healed. And it was mostly around like thinking that still this belief of like the only way that I'm gonna be happy is if I find a relationship. Um and so then
I have to just say it's so funny because a few weeks ago, one of my good friends was like, when you're in a relationship, it doesn't mean that you're gonna be happy. Because it might mean that you're gonna struggle, right? It might mean that it's gonna be fucking harder than being single. And I was like, it really sunk in. I mean, I understand that cognitively, but it really sunk in. Like, yeah, there's no guarantee right there.
I know. I know. Um, so so I decided to like do this work with this woman who had been a guest on my podcast, or yeah, a guest on my podcast. That sounded weird. I thought I said it wrong. I thought I said like a podcast on my guest. But I was still like I had experienced emotional flashbacks. Like I was still activated. Like I was not grounded. It was only like a week after this had happened, and like I do this deep work with her, and like I just end up getting like I'm just getting like really traumatized, and like she's not noticing that like I'm just getting really triggered. Um, and I just like I mean, I just unraveled. Like I was so dysregulated. I was so dysregulated. It was the first time, I don't know how long I had been sober at that point, like 15 years, 14 years. It was the first time that I could actually considered like picking up a drink. And then I just had one thing happen after another. Like I had a friend, like my longest term friend just like called me up out of the blue and said, "I don't want to be your friend anymore." I had somebody in my community like try to start a community behind my back and steal all of my members. I had another friend that kind of like fucked me over. And I mean, I was just like a open gaping wound. Like I was just miserable. Like it was awful. And I was just looking for any sort of fix. I was just I just wanted anything. I just wanted any sort of fix. And I went on a trip, and I knew someone from my past like lived there. And I just like reached out to them because I'm like, I just want to have sex. Like, I just like, I can do this. Like, just looking to have fun. Um, and so I saw him, and like, he like took me and like, he bought me a dress. And then he like took me to like a really nice dinner. Um, and it just felt so good. It just felt so good. And I walked away from that like I told myself it's just gonna be like one time. But again, I was just like a big gaping wound.
Yeah.
And I had to get another fix. And so then I just didn't have a choice. Like I went back for more. And then it was just too late. And it was just too late. And then this person was, I knew that they had a drinking problem. They're an alcoholic. And that's my thing, right? And in the past, that would be so unattractive, and like I wouldn't be drawn to that now at that stage of my healing. And yeah, and so I would go and stay with this person, and then as soon as I would get home, I would just lose it. I would just go into an emotional flashback. And then I would go, and then as it progressed, his drinking got worse. And then what came with that was a lot of fighting. And so then that was a level of like this intermittent reinforcement that I had never experienced before, like these insane sort of the fights. And also like the crazy gaslighting. But Marina, this was different for me because no, there was not a hope. There wasn't a hope. I didn't even I wasn't even really even fantasizing about like maybe he can get sober and like we'll end up with each other. I was literally just in so much pain. And then I just got sucked into this trauma bond, and I would just completely lose it when I would go home. I just would lose it. Like I mean, I remember I came home and I was doing okay. And then it was my birthday and he didn't even call me. And the next day I was like, I'm not talking to you for a week. And I felt so strong in it. And then it was like 2 days later. And I mean, I think that day was the craziest I've ever felt in my entire life. I remember driving over a bridge and just like thinking about like, what if I just drove over I mean, it was the most excruciating pain in my whole life. And I was like, I don't know, 16 years sober, 15 years sober. I had this podcast. I had this community. Like the amount of pain that I was like, this is the most excruciating amount of pain I've ever been in. And so then I ended up reaching out to him, and then I got back, and then I was on a flight the next day. And then that was like the last few months of it. But I mean, I would talk to my therapist every week, and it really was more like triage. But it was just like the whole time I was just like, I know that this is happening for a reason. Like this person had already played like a significant role in my healing journey. And the way that everything had aligned to like where I ended up getting reconnected to him, I just knew I just knew it didn't happen by mistake. Like I knew that it was happening for a reason. It was so obvious to me. It was so obvious to me. But I didn't know how the hell I was going to get out of it. I knew that I was going to get out of it. I mean, sometimes I didn't. But I did. I knew that I was going to get out of it. I knew that this was happening for my greater good. The whole time, like I was able to have a sense of humor about it. Like this is going to make such fucking good podcast content one day.
Totally.
Like this is going to be so good. And then it was like I had a friend that like I had, a couple people that I could talk to about, but then I felt like such a fraud because I was doing the podcast and I was running my community and I was keeping this secret, but it wouldn't have been appropriate for me to have shared it because I was in it.
Yeah.
It's just like, it wouldn't have been appropriate because I'm like the leader of this ship. Like it just wouldn't have been appropriate. And so then there was like the shame there, but then the shame wasn't all consuming because there was also a part of me that knew like, this is happening because it's supposed to, this is happening. You're going to be able to help people like one day because of this. But it was such a surreal experience because it was like I didn't have this fantasy of like that this is the person that I want to be with, or like I just need to fix them. It was just like I was just like holding on for dear life, and I was just reaching for like I say in my episode, like tending to an alcoholic. Like that's like the oldest role that I know. Like that is the oldest role that I know. And so like my nervous system was just reaching for like what it knows and what was comfortable. And then I just got hooked in it. Like I was in and like, oh my God, to like, that would also be, it would just be like so surreal too, to be in the fights and like watch myself in the fights. And then, and to say out loud, like, I'm the crazier one here, right? Because it's like, I know what's going on. Like, I know what's going on. Like, I'm much crazier here. But it was just so weird to be so sane and yet so insane. And so, like, what really finally helped, like, for me to get out of it is like, I mean, it got to the point, Marina, where he literally would just be in bed like all day. Like, he ended up losing his job and he was just in bed. Like, he would just be in bed all day. And then he would get up and he would drink. And it was like none of what was there initially, like, going out to eat. Like, I mean, his alcoholism just got so far and he was so sick. And so then he eventually went into treatment. He went into detox. And I took him to detox. And when I came home, I got so sick the next day. I got so sick. And it was just him being away for those few days that finally just like sort of allowed my nervous system to calm down some. And then he got out, and he wasn't drinking. And I think that probably also helped too, because it was allowing me to get out of that intermittent reinforcement of the highs and the lows and the highs and the lows. And then I eventually went home and I was really scared. Because in the midst of the two was like, I had one friend that like, she was like my one like person that I was talking to about what was going on. And I said to her while it was going on, this was really hard. So I told her while it was going on, like, I understand that this is a lot and like, please let me know, like, if this is too much. And I can't imagine like how hard it was for her to like watch me be doing this. And so then it was like, it was Super Bowl Sunday and I opened up my email and she like was like a coach, like she also kind of like worked in, I don't know if like healing space would be the right word, but like she had a podcast and she was a coach and, she had sent out like an email to like her email list. And the subject of the email was, it was time for me to let her go. And I opened up the email and it's basically an email talking about me, but it's like not talking about me, but it is talking about me. And it was basically talking about this friend that she just had to cut out of her life. Like, meanwhile, like I talked to her on the phone the day before and it was comparing her to her narcissistic mom. And it was like basically just talking about this friend in her life who like keeps finding herself in like really toxic romantic relationships. But some of it just like, some of it wasn't true. Like it wasn't applicable to the situation. Like it was talking about how whenever things are going well, like with this guy, that she never hears from her friend, but when the friend is in crisis and doesn't hear from him, like that's when she hears. And that wasn't true. Like I was always like, I always stayed like consistent as a friend. I never ghosted her. I would still talk to her. Like, and I can say like, I understand that I was an emotional vampire and that I was like probably needy as fuck at times. And like when I was in a spiral, that I was a lot, but like, I never ghosted. I was never not a present friend when things were going like, so there was just certain things in it that like were not applicable to me. And she was just comparing me to like her narcissistic mom. And the other thing that felt really off about it was like that she's somebody that has struggled with all of this stuff too. And like she never mentioned like in the email that like it would be like if I was writing an article about like I have an alcoholic friend in my life and like I don't ever mention the fact that like I'm sober or that I was an alcoholic. And so it felt like a really big punch. Like I felt like I got like
betrayal.
Yeah, it was betrayal. And so I reached out to her And I was like, I don't know if this is about me or not. But if it is, like, I just kind of feel like thrown under the bus. Like, it would have been nice to like get a heads up that you were writing this. And then she responded to me by saying, no, I wrote this like several years ago. I haven't been able to like tell this full story, so it feels good to say. And then well, first of all, it says like, I have a friend in my, like, it was like very much written in the present tense. And she goes, no, I wrote this several years ago. But then in hindsight, because I realized that I kind of fawned with this friend, in hindsight, she didn't say like, oh my God, I'm so sorry. Like, you know what I mean? There wasn't like, oh, I can totally, like, there's no way that she could have sent that email out and not have thought that it was about me.
Yeah.
Like, there's like no way that she's like not that, like, there's like zero chance. And so then to have it was just like, no, I wrote that several years ago. There was no like, oh my God, I'm so sorry, or I didn't think about that. Like, there was none of that. And again, like, I just like kind of fawned, and there was things that later on in hindsight, like, that I realized were kind of like red flags in this relationship. But so then it's like a couple of days later, and I'm like, and of course I just like let it go. I just drop it. And it wasn't until like I talked to my therapist later that she kind of helped point some things out to me. But so then it was like a couple of days later, and I was going to take a trip out to the state where she lives. And I was like, hey, I was going to go visit so-and-so. If you're around at all, like, I'd love to see you. But I understand you have a lot going on. And she wrote back and she goes, I can't do this weekend, but if you come the following weekend, you can stay with me the whole time. And I'm like, okay, great. So then I sent her a text message the next day, and I go, all right, I'm going to come on like next Thursday and leave on Sunday. And she writes back, I'll have to check my schedule. And I was like, okay. And sometimes she gets a little moody, or she can get a little weird like that. So I'm just like, all right, whatever. And then I talked to my therapist, and then she's kind of like, I had sent her the newsletter, and she was kind of like pointing out to me like kind of what was unhealthy about it. And then 3 days go by and I don't hear anything. And like, she's somebody like we would talk every single day. And so then I just sent her a text on Monday, and I go, hey, let me know when you have the time and the space, like, for us to have a talk. I want to talk to you about a few things when you have the capacity for it. And then I just got this response back that was like, I don't have any room in my life for any additional stressors or unexpected conversation. It was just like, and it wasn't like, I'll let you know, like, when I can have this. It was like completely shutting down the conversation at all. And so then I had several weeks like go by, and then I just like sent her a video text, and I just said, hey, like, you and I have talked about how like friendship like is about like having difficult conversations like with each other. And I said, your friendship's really important to me, and I'm not really sure like what's going on here. But I just want to tell you like what my experience is. And I said, you told me to change my plans. And then when I texted you like the next day and told you when my flights were, you said you'd have to get back to me, and I felt confused. And I said, and then I didn't hear from you for 3 days. And then when I reached out to you to like have a conversation, your response was just kind of like, you completely shut me out. Like, it wasn't like, hey, and it just made me feel like our friendship like wasn't important to you. I never heard from her ever again.
Friendship breakups are so painful.
Well, what was really fucked up about it was like that like she knows that that's like my number one, like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, my biggest fear and what shows up in all of my relationships, and part of the reason that I'm so uptight and like why my reaction, why I'm so miserable and just hyper vigilant and in a trauma response constantly in relationships, is that my biggest thing is that people are just going to abandon me out of nowhere. That there's going to be just like there's going to be no sort of warning. There's nothing I would have done. I won't see it coming. That just people are just going to drop me out of nowhere.
And then it happens.
And then it happened. And then to have that be like the one person that was like the person that I could call when I would actually go home and be by myself. And so it was terrifying. Like the thought of like going home after, like, that almost made me feel even more trapped to have that happen. But because that happened, when I finally went home, I reached out to some people that I hadn't been on, like, that didn't know what was going on. And I just happened to reach out to like one woman in particular. And she ended up like really being the lifeline that I needed to like get myself out of it. And I never went back. I stayed in contact with him like for a while. Um, it was kind of like as a bit of a crutch. And then like slowly over time, like I couldn't even have conversations with him. It just like it just stopped working, right? Like the fix that I was getting from it, um, just stopped working. Uh, but like, yeah, it was like so hard. It was like the most painful. God, I like just like thinking like, oh, I can just feel it in my body. Like, oh, it was so hard. It was miserable. And then there's just like the shame of like having my podcast and my community and just like keeping it a secret. And um yeah, it was really hard. It was really hard. But it had to happen. Yeah, it had to happen.
Oh shit. So just in awe that you are witnessing it, like you're not judging it, you're seeing it from a different perspective. And I think that part of it is letting go of perfectionism, isn't it? That's healing. Like people don't realize that being imperfect is actually a sign of growth, even when you're really fucking up. Lately, so many people have been telling me this, like, oh, you're not good at blah, 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 and you teach it. And I'm like, thanks. I'm growing, That's part of it. And it's uncomfortable. It's uncomfortable. I just want to be like perfect at what I do and what I teach. But the thing is that what you're teaching and what you're talking about in your community and your podcast, that's your fucking life experience. Like, and what I hear in this story is a person who had a moment of being very under-resourced.
Mm-hmm.
And I know I'm I have an addictive personality. I've never had like a substance addiction, but I've had workaholism, overworking out to the point of like breaking my body, overeating for years, and men is number one. And like when I'm under resourced, fuck, like I just need my fix. And when it happens, like it goes deeper and deeper, and it's like the trauma resurfaces from the past. That's the hardest, like when shit happens in life that's like daily life and there's people there that are like helping you and just showing up. Okay, it's like, okay, that's a little hard, but okay. But what you're describing is also like your childhood, like resurfacing.
Well, and there was that too. I forgot to mention, like what was also going on was like my parents, their alcoholism was getting worse, and they were becoming extremely abusive towards me. Extremely abusive. Like it was probably the most abusive. Yeah, I mean, they got real nasty, really nasty. And so then I felt like I didn't have a family. And then he felt like, I mean, I had an experience with my parents where I was going to go home for Christmas, and then my cat ended up having 2 seizures, like one on the way to the airport And then one when I was going through security, and it was like they had told me like if she ever has 2 seizures back to back, like you got to take her to the, and so I ended up like having to take her to the emergency vet. Um and and I had a call with my mom, and she was like basically like I don't like what like why haven't you put her down? Like it was like so fucked up like what she was saying. Um and then um telling her like I'm not going to be able to make it home, and like she was sending me text messages like meanwhile like she was an active alcoholic, and she was like sending me text messages like telling me how big of a disappointment I am as a daughter and how pathetic it is that I'm in a relationship with an active alcoholic. Ugh. And so like he felt like it was like he was safer. He was like safer than they were. So there was that part of it too. It's like I'm an only child. Like, so there was all of that as well. Like it was just like, yeah, it was everything.
Yeah, I feel you. Very much. Last 2 years of my life have felt like that. And I think the one thing that has kind of like brought me out of that shitstorm is friendship, like cultivating and I've also had friendship breakups in that, and it's very painful. And I think that people don't always understand how much you need family when you don't have it, or like you're trying to create family through relationships with men or whatever, whoever, romantic relationships, when you don't have family and you're an only child. Both of us are, and your parents are fucked up, and you're like, okay, I need people. Like we need humans. So to me, like the biggest thing is like being resourced, like yes, like in the healing journey, we are always gonna have those moments. It doesn't mean you're not healed. It's like a moment of a shitstorm and everything is so hard, and you kind of have to surrender. You kind of have to surrender and just say, "Oh my God, everything is like so difficult and I need help." And I think for what helped me, and I'm curious, like for you to share what helped too, but what helped me is to start telling my friends, like, check in on me. I am not doing well, just check in every day, like text me, like telling them my need, and like for people to actually show up and help me in like really profound ways. Like that was everything. The co-regulation. And yeah, I go to therapy and I do my healing work, but like we do need people, period. Like we are humans. We are wired to connect. So we need people.
Oh, well, I also forgot to mention then my cat died, like my 21-year-old cat. Like it was the biggest thing for me, Marina, was like I had never done any somatic work.
Yeah.
It was like I thought like, oh, that's nice, but like I didn't see that it was like requirement. And I think that that's also too like when I got when stuff was coming up for me, like with the guy that was like going through divorce, like, I mean, part of what hadn't been healed is like, I really hadn't, like, yeah, I had those moments like when I would get triggered and I would kind of like sit in the emotional flashbacks. But other than that, like, I hadn't done any body work. It's like I got it, but I didn't get it. It's like I knew trauma lived in the body, but I just like was kind of thinking like, oh, it's when it shows up like as physical pain, which eventually it did. It hadn't yet, or like, oh, it's when it shows up as autoimmune. So that was the biggest thing for me was like to start getting in touch with my body, and breath work was like has been life changing for me.
What kind of breath work do you do?
All sorts.
Yeah, I start my day of
Me too. I do this breath. I do like I have the what's his name, like breath work with Sandy or something
Oh
on
my God,
YouTube.
that's what I do. I love him. He cracks me up. That's
Mm-hmm.
so funny. That's how I start every day.
Oh, you beautiful breathing people.
And now YouTube just like suggests
Mm-hmm.
a video to me every day, and I'm like, okay, every day, whatever's suggested, I do, and
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I do
so
his every
funny.
morning.
I love that. Somatic work is really powerful. I think that we're all in our process, we're all in our process, and I think that for me, removing all like a lot of people from my life, a lot of people, um, it was very hard, and I don't even think I remembered to self-regulate with my practices that I teach. Like I was so flooded, and also like war, like it's just, yeah, I was so flooded, and all the work I've done, I think all the work I've done helped me in my similar relationship to yours in a way,
Mm-hmm.
but different, that I've talked about in the podcast. It really helped me witness it more than like feed into it, even though I was in it. And I feel like you did too. Like the way you're describing it, it's very different than how you would have gone through it like many years ago.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like the spiral of healing, and you keep learning about yourself and what you need and how you need to show up, and like what feels like love and what doesn't.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, this is like this shit's hard.
So hard. I just love, I mean, how you just shared is so powerful because nobody shares, even though you're not in it anymore. But it almost, I felt like I was in it with you as you're sharing. Like, people need to know it's really fucking hard. I actually heard that love addiction is like the hardest addiction, like more than drugs, which makes sense because it plays on our attachment system. Like, it's like baby us, children us, teenage us,
Maybe
all in
yes.
one. Just that's always there, like all these parts. And oh my God. Yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
Yeah, not everybody gets it. Like not everybody can relate to like struggling in relationships. And I mean there's other things that I can't relate to either, but
yeah.
um yeah, if you're like out there listening and you just can't imagine, like, I don't know, staying in a relationship, like, or like why it would be so impossible to like to walk away. It's like you just don't get it unless you've been in it.
It's a drug. It's a drug. Yeah. And
Yeah, and it's more than just that, because it's trauma.
yeah. Well, drugs and trauma go very hand
True,
in hand.
true. I mean, it's like a soothing. Yeah, like I mean, I guess I just view my it's different. I just think it's a little bit different. Like just as somebody who's like suffered from like alcoholism and also this, um, but yeah, it's but as I said, I just think that it's something that is always going to be with me to an extent. But like I said, I think it's important. It is something that we have to share like with other people. If you're somebody that has this, um, you got to be on. And here's the huge growth that I can say for myself is I don't have any sort of shame or embarrassment about that. Like in the past, I remember when I first got sober, I remember for the first 5 years of my sobriety, I was so afraid to tell somebody that I was sober, like if they weren't sober. That left me. And then this too, like I'm not embarrassed about that. Like I have abandonment trauma. I might freak out like the first time that it takes you too long to text me back. Um, but I think that says everything that like, I don't know, I'm not afraid about that pushing. Like if it's the right person, I don't know. I feel so much comfort in my own skin. Not necessarily with myself all the time, but like with who I am to other people, I guess. Like, I still
Yeah.
can feel really unsafe in my own body, with myself at times. But like who I am, like my wounds and my scars and how it shows up, like I'm really comfortable showing that to everyone else.
I love that. I feel that way too. It's like the fawn response has decreased a lot, which is so powerful. And I can tell in the way you share your story that the shame has just gone away. I mean, we do shitty things and we're humans and we're imperfect and we mess up. And
I think part of it too is like I can only really connect with people on the level that I want to. Unless they kind of get this, not necessarily that they also have. It's just like I think that somebody that would judge me for that is probably somebody that I really am not going to necessarily connect with on a deep level. Like it's just kind of like an emotional intelligence type thing.
yeah, 100%. I feel you.
You know?
I feel you. Yeah, it's like this is who I am. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, and if you think it's like really weird and you don't get it, then like we're just probably not like we're just not on the same wavelength.
Yeah.
Like more so from like you're just not like there's just not the depth there.
Yes.
You know?
Yes, I love that. I love that. I mean, it's very liberating. It's a very liberating standpoint to be in. I think we can wrap this up here. Is there
Thanks,
anything
girly. No.
else? No, we'll just leave it here. Leave it here. Go get free. Just in self-acceptance of all of who you are. That's the point of it.
Absolutely. Beautiful.